Audio Jungle.
The New York Football Giants. I'm dedicating this episode to my boy Jay, who passed away last week, who was a massive Giants fan, and he hated them so much. And I will carry on his hate
The
today
hatred.
for the Giants because me and him would always sit there and talk. If he would get a little bit optimistic, I would bring him down. So Giants fans, if you start bitching in the comments, Daniel Jones is your quarterback, and that's something that you have to deal with. Anyway, so the 2023 season recap: 6-11, 4-4 at home, 2-7 away. Key wins: they beat the Packers and the Eagles. But I said this in like 2 episodes ago. I don't know if I'm going to start counting as a key win as the Eagles down the stretch because they were really fucking bad.
I have the same exact thing here as notable games, and like that wasn't even the same Eagles football team that we saw at the beginning of the season. So like I totally agree.
This is another team that has absolutely no direction in any way, shape, or form, and it's hard to watch. Daniel Jones 2 years ago was the most obvious tag candidate, maybe of all time, and they gave him a big contract. The reason why I say that isn't even because one, he's just flat bad. Two, he can't stay healthy. Like, I don't think that has there ever been a season where he's been fully healthy. He's had major knee injuries, he's had neck injuries, major stuff where it's just like, why do you want that from a quarterback? He can't stay healthy, and then you go and give him a big contract. So outside of him just being flat bad, the injury side of things is like, that would have been a red flag for me personally. For everybody, I know if somebody starts bitching, like, why am I qualified to talk about it? I've won 20 Super Bowls in Madden, so that's why I'm qualified to talk about it.
And we literally watch every game and see exactly the situation that Daniel Jones.
We're not sitting here and talking about rocket science. Everybody's like, oh, like, why are you qualified to talk about it? We're talking about fucking football. Like, if you don't like it, start your own YouTube channel. Next,
we're not calling plays either. So
next, they can't draft. And I said this when we were previewing the draft. You were like, oh, they're going to take a wide receiver at 6. And I'm like, they had one of the worst O lines last season, and you have an opportunity to take one of the best O linemen in the draft. I wanted them to take J.C. Latham. I think he's going to be special because Joe Alt came off the board at 5. And then they go yeah, you were. They go and take Malik Neighbors with pick number 6. But then just look at what they've done over the past few years, taking wide receivers in the first round, not in the first round, but with high caliber picks. Take Jalen Hyatt in the 3rd round. He's not going to do anything in the NFL. You take Wan'Dale Robinson in the 2nd round. He tore his ACL. He's decent, but he's not going to ever be a big time wide receiver for them. And then you take Kadarius Toney in the 1st round 3 years ago. They just don't have a great history of drafting and developing wide receivers. So why am I going to sit here? I know everybody really loves Malik Neighbors, but as of right now, I'm fine. I'm going to question it because they haven't been good at drafting wideouts. And it feels like if you go to New York, outside of Odell Beckham Jr., which was over 10 years ago at this point, they haven't had much success.
2014 is when they drafted Odell.
They haven't had much success at drafting wide receivers. So I know I just said a lot. Give me what you have to think about their draft and what they've been drafting, and also the Daniel Jones contract and what you think of him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a secret to anybody. I don't even think Giants fans realistically wanted them to give Daniel Jones that type of money, but it's said and done. If you're a Giants fan, you pretty much just have to get through this year, and then you can get him off of your books, I believe. But this year's going to be bad. It's going to be really tough for Giants fans this year. Listen, I like Malik Neighbors, but if history repeats itself how it usually does, especially when it comes to New York Giants receivers, it's going to be bad with him too, unfortunately. And trickling back to Daniel Jones, why wouldn't you franchise tag him and then put money into figuring out your offensive line or trying to sign receivers rather than draft them because you don't know what you're going to get with a wide receiver out of the draft, but you at least have a better idea if you try and sign a free agent wide receiver. So
It's
I think it
really
was a complete mismanagement of money.
It's really what we talk about all the time, where having a wide receiver and a really good one is a luxury. If you don't have a quarterback to get him the football, if you don't have an O line and trenches to be able to keep that quarterback upright and get the ball out, what's the point of having it? I mean, Neighbors was the biggest diva during the pre-draft process. He was talking shit on Daniel Jones, complaining about being in New York, like wasn't happy. Like
a lot of videos of him just seemed uninterested leading up to it, but I'm not going to hold that fully against him until we see how he plays on the field. So
regardless, I think
against him.
I'm going to hold
it's not a great start for sure.
No,
I don't think it's a great start, but
no, you
I
can't
don't want to hold that against him.
Some of the quotes that he said too, like, oh, like, what do you think of, oh, like, we'll see. Like,
well, what was the Instagram live thing that he had?
It was something with Jaden Daniels, which, I mean, that's a whole different situation as well. But he just seems to, he thought he was going to the Chargers. The Chargers took Joe Alt, and he's a little pissed that he's in New York now. But hey, it is what it is. But I don't like the vibes going into the season. Even if you hate Daniel Jones, you haven't met the guy yet. He's going to be your quarterback next season. At least lie.
Yeah, fake it.
So additions that they made this offseason. The one great thing that they did this year is they got Brian Burns. They traded for him, which I thought was an extremely cheap trade, and they signed him to a big deal. And I think that's money well spent. And I applaud them for making that move and rounding out their defensive line even more of Dexter Lawrence, Kayvon Thibodeau, and Brian Burns. I think that's one of the best in the entire NFL.
Yeah, I love them bringing in Brian Burns. Their defense was realistically the only bright spot last year. And it's what kept them in some of these games.
So you know what's really weird? You're saying that?
Like what?
And this is something that I wanted to get into and I wanted to hear, since you brought it up, Brian Daboll is like fighting for his life at this point, because last year, Wink Martindale had that defense looking decent. And like you just, like, I thought too, like, oh, you know what? Like their defense is kind of like the bright spot on this team, and their offense is like doing them absolutely zero favors. So why did they fire Wink? They make more moves on the defensive side of the football, which I thought was positive, other than like, it seemed like Daboll had to do something, because there was like rumors that they like hated each other and they were like screaming at each other and stuff. But it felt like a desperation move to extend his job's life a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, I think they fired the wrong coordinator. If anything, and I understand injuries were a huge part of their season last year, but I mean, if anything, you got to get that offensive coordinator out of the building. That offense was atrocious. The defense was the only good thing about the New York Giants last year. And even if you don't like your defensive coordinator, you got to show him some type of respect when he's getting those guys on the other side of the football fired up week in and week out and busting their ass for you on a fucking terrible team. So they fired the wrong guy.
I think Daboll, well, it says Mike Kafka was the
it's Daboll and Kafka.
Okay. I was 100% sure.
The guy they brought in was from Tennessee. They brought in Shane Bowen.
Okay.
So like, I don't know what that means. I'm sure he's not. I don't think he's better than Wink Martindale, but
let's go back into the additions. Well, you said they should have got a free agent wide receiver, and they did. They got Allen Robinson.
That's right.
6 years past his prime. John Runyon, Jordan Phillips. They drafted Theo Johnson, which you're probably excited about, but again, we don't know what he's going to be in the NFL. We have to watch it play out, even though he's super athletic. Tyler Nubbin, the safety out of Minnesota, who I actually really liked. And I liked him obviously too. They drafted Malik Neighbors.
They got Devin Singletary too.
Yeah. I mean, whatever. Like, I don't really,
I'm just saying, like, that's another like, addition. I mean, they have to fill the running back room with somebody.
They need to get Wayne Gallman back in there.
They should
Loss,
line up Drew Lock at running back.
losses on this squad. Oh, they added Drew Lock too. How could we forget?
That's right.
Losses on this roster. They obviously lost Saquon Barkley. I understand that he was like kind of like the heartbeat of the Giants organization in a way, but it kind of goes back to the same point that we made when we were talking about neighbors is like, really, what's the point of keeping Saquon? You guys aren't good. Honestly, at a point, like, I don't even know why Saquon wanted to be there.
I would say that I feel like Saquon like really idolizes Kobe Bryant, at least kind of what I've seen on Instagram. And Kobe Bryant was a guy that obviously played his entire career on the Lakers. So like it felt like he kind of had a sense of pride in only wanting to play for one NFL team. But for the sake of his career, him not returning to this Giants team was the best thing that he could have possibly done.
Yeah, and it was rough to watch it. Like he just can't stay healthy behind a dog shit O line, and like it was really rough to watch. And I'm happy that he's out of there. I think that you can still idolize Kobe. I think thinking
Agreed.
that you're going to stay on
think...
one at the position that he's at.
Yeah.
I think thinking that you're going to stay on one NFL team your entire career is extremely unlikely. So pull the Band-Aid off now and go somewhere where you can actually be protected. And lastly, they lost Darren Waller after one season. I don't really have an opinion on that. I mean, Waller seemed to be like way past his prime.
Another guy that, if I recall, couldn't stay healthy.
No, hammy injury every year.
They also lost Xavier McKinney, who I thought was a solid safety. Yeah,
the Packers. Yeah.
Other than that, I'm looking at this list of not receivers, but this list of guys that they lost, and like outside of Xavier McKinney and Saquon Barkley, there's not really anybody that's standing out. Like there just wasn't a lot of talent. Like Paris Campbell, they don't have like Sterling Shepard, like Tyrod Taylor. I guess Tyrod Taylor was a guy that they should have tried to keep, but
man,
I mean, a lot of these guys are listed as now. I don't know when when Warren Sharp like fully wrote up this article on them, but half the guys that they lost don't even have a team yet. So
I'm not gonna lie to you, man. Sterling Shepard might be one of my favorite wide receivers of all time.
You're shitting me.
Bro, I don't know why. I just love him. I always loved him. He was so good for like 4 weeks of the season and then he got hurt.
Yeah.
So it's tough to see him wearing like number like 23 in Tampa, but the early years of Sterling, the early years of Sterling Shepard will never be forgotten. Thank you, Sterling.
It honestly felt like the Giants always had a guy like Sterling Shepard, like Victor Cruz,
UMass's finest.
UMass's absolute finest. And then he retired, and it felt like I'm sure did Sterling Shepard come in right after him?
Yes.
Yeah.
They were on the same team. Bro, I'll never forget the one time we were playing we were playing at Fenway Park, that game that we played.
Yeah.
And I remember we were like, I was chilling in the locker room and Victor Cruz like walked into the locker room. And I mean, if you watched football when you were younger, like Victor Cruz was a cool player. So I was like,
he was like one of the first guys with a shoe.
Yeah. I was like dumb fired up when he walked in. And I was like, I remember me and Andrew was sitting at his locker and I was like, dude, would it be incredibly whack if I went up and asked Victor Cruz for a picture? And he was like, no. So I
I was going to say Victor Cruz also did that salsa dance every time he scored. That was the coolest
shit. Iconic.
Yeah. And now he's just retired and is like best friends with Ronnie Feig and does all the cool Kith shit. So
he's kind of a cool. That's like he's kind of a cool guy.
Yeah, he's locked in with that.
All right, we're dumb off topic. Anyway, back weaknesses on this football team.
Everything.
Their offense in general, O-line, their running back room,
I think I will say I think Daboll's a good coach. but he just has absolutely
Why?
nothing to work with.
Why do you think he's a good coach? What has he done?
I think the one year that the Giants were good,
When was that?
he got
When they won,
2 years ago when they won a
when they
playoff
made it
game
to the
against the
playoffs?
Vikings.
I
I
think that
think
was
that
last year, 2 years ago.
no,
So
that was 2 years ago. They definitely didn't make the playoffs at 6-11 last year.
no, so that year they went 9-7-1.
That's right.
And
Got
they beat
absolutely the most he could have out of a horrible, horrible team. And they had a lot of good luck too, which certainly helps. But even last year, they just have zero. They just don't have enough talent. And to even
I
somehow get 6 wins out of that is insane. Like they were starting Tommy DeVito.
he was cooking
Why do you think?
because he had the cutlets and his agent.
Yeah, his agent was literally goaded. So,
Um,
but yeah, their
I don't
weaknesses
know. I
are
mean, let's
glaring
check.
on offense.
I mean, let's check real quick of like how many points they're putting up last season, like per game. Like the most
Not a
that they
lot. Not a
the
lot.
most they put up in a game last season was 31 against the Commies.
Dude, their offense was still like from a player talent standpoint was absolutely atrocious.
No
For them to
doubt.
win 6 games somehow is astonishing.
Okay, so weaknesses.
I don't think he's like incredible, but I don't think he's a bad coach.
That's
It's
fair.
just the way that it goes.
I ate my words. I'll eat my words.
That's just the way that it goes if you have that bad of a team multiple years in a row, even if injuries happen.
Is Tommy DeVito the future?
That honestly felt like a Bill Simmons question.
That's going to be the
Priscilla,
opening.
let me ask you something. Is Tommy DeVito the future of the New York Giants?
I memean, Tommy's 4-3 in these games. Is he the future? Because that's what the Raiders fans think about fucking Aiden O'Connell. So, that's going to be the opening clip, like before like the intro rolls in. Is she like, is Tommy DeVito the future? Like, dude, I'm dumb. This is a bad preview. We're all over the place. Strengths.
We are.
Strengths.
Their defensive front seven.
Yeah, their defensive line is. I don't think they're front seven. I mean, you're starting Isaiah Simmons at linebacker, but I think that their D line is elite. Like elite. Like I'm not
Kayvon
bullshitting.
Thibodeau, Dexter Lawrence, and Brian Burns all on the same D line is actually nightmare fuel for an offensive coordinator.
Like that's nasty. Like he's nasty. They're nasty. So I appreciate them. 2024 predictions. Worst record watch, but also at the same time, like I don't think that they're the worst team in their division. And I think that they're going to be a little bit better than the Commanders. With that all being said, I think undoubtedly, unless if Daboll can randomly pull a winning season out of his dick, he's fired.
He's done it before. I think
he gets fired. I really do. So I think they're on worst record watch. I don't think they're as bad as the Commanders. And I don't know, dude. I think that this division's extremely top heavy. I don't see them splitting games with the Eagles this year. I don't see them beating the Cowboys, like stuff like that. So I don't know. It's hard for me to pick between them or the Commanders are the worst team in this division.
I have them going. I have a couple things. The one thing that like I wanted to point out with Daniel Jones coming back is like his strength is scrambling, I would say at this point, and coming off of an ACL and having that bad of an offensive line is not great. That's not a great combo going into this season. With that being said, I do think they're going to go 3-14.
But what if Tommy's starting?
Well, then I have to rethink my strategy here because I'm taking this as if Daniel Jones is starting.
I'm looking at it right now. I wouldn't be shocked if Tommy DeVito was competing for a job in camp.
You think he starts by week 7?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think it could literally be like I think Daniel Jones could legitimately throw 27 interceptions in a game and they'll still keep him in. Like
They
that?
literally have to keep him in for probably 11 weeks, and if they get to their bye and they're somehow they win like 3 games in the first, I mean, that's still not good. 3-7 at the bye, then I think he's gone.
Dude, I mean, bro,
Like, they
we
can cut him,
literally
right?
no, not during the season, bro. Like literally, like
After the season is what I'm saying.
yeah. But do you remember the very first game of the year last year when the Dallas Cowboys shit rocked them 40 to
40 to
nothing?
nothing.
And
Yeah,
Daniel
I
Jones
continuously live bet the spread in that game. It started off at like 21.
and Daniel Jones, I literally did a prop bet. It was like the Dallas Cowboys to have 7 sacks and to win the football game, and it was like $5
I
to win
remember
like
that.
325. It was like I just like threw a shot at the dartboard. Bro, they kept him in that entire time and he got absolutely shit rocked. So I think that this is the day. Like I think that there's a real opportunity that Danny Dimes could go out on the football field this year.
So listen to this. Speaking of that week 1 game in Dallas, Daniel Jones was pressured on an insane 67% of his 42 dropbacks. That's
And I want to
unbelievable.
on an actual serious note, I need to see Andrew Thomas stay healthy and play at an elite level. You're supposed to be a really good left tackle. And
Correct.
Evan Neal on the other side playing at right tackle, he seems way in over his head. But if he could take a next step and play decent this season, we actually might not be in the worst place ever. But it is definitely concerning that they're 2 guys that they have. Like one can't stay healthy. I think Andrew Thomas is good. I don't know. But Evan Neal just like flat isn't. So I need to see both of those guys take a massive step next season.
Yeah, 2 guys that they took with their first round draft pick the last 3 years. So, or 4 years, sorry.
We're not asking a lot. I mean, they have the
No.
pedigree. You were taken there for a reason. Like we're asking very reasonable things to happen. And I don't know. I think regardless, I think Daboll gets fired. I think the offense is going to look really bad this season, and that's kind of his claim to fame, and that's why he's good. So yeah, that's kind of what I think. I think that he's gone after this year, regardless.
Yeah, unless literally there's one thing that could happen, and it's he pulls like another 9-8 season like he did.
And Daniel Jones
has to go.
And Daniel Jones looks good.
Yeah. Other than that, he's another guy that's on the hot seat. So
definitely. All right. Well, hey, Giants fans, we're sorry.
We're really sorry.
This, like I said, RIP to Jay. He would very much appreciate this episode. But yeah, the Giants, not much there for us to even discuss. They're just not a good team.
Giants fans, you got to make it through this year, and hopefully you can take
another wide receiver in the first round.
Yeah, hopefully you take the kid from Missouri with your 3rd overall pick.
All right, brother.
All right, go Birds.